Hello, my name is Tipper. Today we're going to be talking about Appalachian language, which I am just plumb foolish about. We're going to be talking more specifically about words that are phrases and words that start with the letter N, and I'm using the Dictionary of Smoky Mountain English for reference. The first word is name. I used this week in one of my shorts. If you're a regular viewer, you probably noticed it. And it's a noun, and it means to mention. So here's an example. 1940, Hans Hawks Dunn. Of course, he knowed Shorty. Shipley put it there, but he didn't make any name of it. So that just means you didn't name it. He didn't mention it. He didn't make any mention of it. We didn't make any name of it to Old Man Brock or to Sadie. And then there's a second entry, which really just means the same thing, but it's a verb, to mention, tell, or call. 1895, Edson in Fairchild, Tennessee Mountains. If you see him, name it to him. So if you see him, tell him. 1913, Capehart, our Southern Highlanders. I'll name it to Newt. If so, be he's that. So he'll name it to him. 1915, Pollard, Tennessee Mountains. I told her not to name it to me again. So they didn't want to hear it mentioned again. 1939, Hall Collection, Toestring Creek, North Carolina. When the speaker was reminded of an unfortunate incident, he said, "If you just name that to me again, you'll go just the same route the other man went." So he really didn't want to hear it again. So I did not grow up in a family that used name it like that, name it to me. But I did used to work with once worked with a girl that said it. And so if I was talking about something, she would use name it like that. No, they didn't name it to me. So she used it just like that. So I love that it's still alive and well here in Cherokee County. And actually the girl, the lady, she's my age. So she's from the same generation as me. It's just interesting how words, like I never heard that until I heard her say it, and I'd read it in the Dictionary of Smoky Mountain English before and other Appalachian reference books, but it was really interesting to hear her actually just use it in natural conversation. This is another one that I don't have any experience with, but I've read about it a lot, and it's Nanny tea. Nanny tea. It's a noun, a medicinal tea used to treat measles, made by bull and sheep droppings in water. Same as sheep ball tea. 1982, Sloan, How We Talked. Cure for measles, made from sheep manure, tied in a rag and boiled in water. A stew made from whiskey, sugar, and ginger. So I've heard it, Nanny tea, most often, or I've not heard it, but read it in books, is the first entry there, not about whiskey, but about the actually taking sheep droppings and then using that to make a tea to treat the ailment with. The next one is just really a word pronunciation. So a little leaf just fell on me. So the word is narrow, but you'll most often hear it said as Nary. There's a Nary little road goes down through there. That's how you get to his house. 1942, Hall Phonetics, Foster Walker, 1970. Well, it was in Hall Phonetics, it was noted that they used Nary. 1970, Foster Walker Valley. It was pretty nary at the time, and then they that had that washout back in 20. So that's still one that I would hear, nary, talking about something that's narrow. It's just a different way of saying it. So the next one is very similar to that one I just read, nary. I say them both the same. Nary meaning narrow, and nary meaning not one, none. The first one is spelled N-A-R-R-E-Y. This one is spelled N-A-R-Y. The first entry in the book for it is it's a pronoun, not a one, none, any. Edson and Fairchild, Tennessee Mountains. I never seen nary that wasn't one. 1975, Chalmers, better. Airy and nary, they say, for any and none. Airy and nary, they say, for any and none. So that's what I've heard in my life. So if somebody's going to say any, they might say, you got airy one, meaning if you got any one. But then somebody else might say, I ain't got nary one, meaning I ain't got none. I don't have not one. The second entry is be, an adjective, adverb. No, neither, never, not any, especially in phrase narea and with another negative. So then 1938, Bowman, High Horizons. I'd like to, mister, only she ain't got nary mule. So they must have been asking them to go somewhere. 1939, Hall Collection, Deep Creek, North Carolina. I couldn't get nary another shot there, so the bear went on out 200 or 300 yards. And that was Mark Cathy that said that. Hazel Creek, North Carolina. That was the last you ever seed of any wolf in this country. Never seed nary other wolf in this country anymore. And that was Zeb Crisp. 1940, Paddleford notes nary a thing to do but watch the sunball rise and set. Nary a thing to do but watch the sunball rise and set. And the sunball is the sun, so they had nothing else to do but that. 1979, Great Smoky Mountain National Park. I ain't got on hardly nary thing. So that one's those two, airy, which it mentioned, but nary, both naries, narrow, nary, and not one nary are both still common in my area of Appalachia. You'll have to tell me if they are where you live. The next one is natural born, is an adjective phrase. Having a genuine inborn habit, tendency, or character trait, often an undesirable or unhealthy one. I don't know if I agree with that last part because I've heard it used in both, in positive and I guess in negative, but I've heard it probably most often in positive, in a positive light. 1867, Harris, Lovingood, didn't do it in the name of common sense, did it in the name and with the spirit of plumb natural born darn fool. So a plumb natural born darn fool. Okay, 1883, Ziegler and Crosscup, Heart of Alleghenies. A unique character who frequently mingles with the crowd is the natural born hoss swapper. 1939, Burnet Gap of Mountains. No, that pot hound ain't worth nothing. Won't catch a hog, won't drive cattle, fights every dog he sees. Lazy hain't got no affection for nobody and is a natural born egg sucker. So that was definitely all negative ones there. I've heard that used, Pat might use it to say, even just talking about something as simple as a baseball or something, he's a natural born pitcher. He just could do it Pap was a baseball coach. From the time he was a little boy, he was just a natural born pitcher. He's really good. A natural born guitar player. Natural born singer, all those kind of things. But that's one that I find, I can't hardly believe that it's not common in other areas of the country, and not just, but it was noteworthy enough to note in this dictionary that it was unique, they thought, but it seems very, very common to me to say someone is a natural born, whatever they are. Kind of going along with that one, this next one is natured, adjective, naturally inclined or disposed. 1924, Rain, Saddlebags. Sheep is natured like a deer. They use up high. 1975, Chalmers, Better. He's just natured that way. 1984, Wilder, You All Spoken. Something come by naturally, as in this river bottom is right natured for corn. So natured for me, we would use it like to say, he's really good-natured, meaning he's just pleasant and easy to get along with, friendly. So that one kind of is the same as natural born, but used slightly differently, talking about their nature. Whether maybe somebody's got a hateful nature, that would not be great, but I've also heard that. This next one is, you don't hear it very much anymore, but it's one certainly from my childhood, but it's another one that's just the pronunciation. So it's near, N-E-A-R, but we would say it nigh. A comparative form, this is just telling a little bit slightly different one, and I've never heard this one, although I did hear nigh a lot. Nearer. Superlative form, nearest, you're nearest that, so pick it up, I guess. I've not heard that either. 1975 Gainer speech, Mountain, you're nearer to the door than I am. 1995 through 97 Montgomery collection, nearer, which I've never heard, was known to Bush, Cardwell, Oliver. Nearest was known to Bush, Cardwell, and Oliver. Then the second entry for it is nearly. See also near about. 1939 Hall Collection, Mount Sterling, North Carolina. He was near a mile away from the little boy at this time. He went something near a mile back into the Spruce Mountains, and that was Jake Sutton. So let me go back and look. So they're really just talking about near here, not talking about nigh. I see now it says look for nigh, see nigh. So I was thinking this was about nigh. So it's just the variations of near. Nearer and near-dist. I've never heard either one of those, but please tell me if you have. Another one with near in it, near about. This one is real common. Adverb phrase, nearly. See also about, just about, and nearly. 1981, Whitener Folkways. He was so scared at seeing me on the scaffold that he near about fainted. 1988, Dickey and Bake Wayfarer. You been sleeping all day, near about, and you done broke a sweat, and that's good for you. So near about. That one's real common. The thing that first comes to mind, if I might say, you know, he lives up there on the other side of Hayesville, near about Shooting Creek. That's where he comes from. So that one's pretty common. Here's another near one, near cut or near way, a noun, a shortcut, same as nigh cut. 1956 Hall Collection, Murphy, North Carolina, so very close to me. My grandfather thought he'd take a near cut through this laurel thicket, and he didn't know what he was getting into, and that was Mrs. Lloyd Hammond. Mrs. Lloyd Hammond. I used to know who was the name? A Hammond that had something to do with music. Maybe that played a mandolin with Pap and Ray? I don't know, but that sounds familiar. So that one's for Murphy. Near cut. So it's really saying a shortcut. I've not heard that one myself. Near cut, near way, or nigh cut. 1960 Burnett, My Valley. Often she would take near cuts and reach the stand before the deer. 1960 Mason Memoir. Billy knew a place where he could take a near way and get to camp ahead of his buddies. 1961 Murray Salt. Aiming to cut the journey some and get in home soonest, I decided to undertake a near cut I had never tried. So I've never heard that, but it does make sense if you're, we would say shortcut or something like that, but a near cut, because it's nearer, you're going to get there quicker. So I've never heard that one, but I like it. Here's one more, nearly. Going back to still on the near, is an adverb following the construction modified of near about, or see, it's telling us to go back and see near about, but we've already seen that one. 1953 Hall Collection, Bryson City, North Carolina. I love to hunt turkeys, and there was lots of them on the mountains at that time. No trouble to go out and kill a turkey at any time nearly. Granville, Calhoun. 1969 Great Smoky Mountain National Park. He sold it to him for nothing, nearly then. 1969 Great Smoky Mountain National Park. They'd all moved out nearly when I got big enough to recollect anything. 1973 everybody that lived in the mountains loved to eat their early ramps. 1973 I'm always at home nearly. So that's another one that, let's go back and read. Nearly adverb following the construction modified. So there's I guess the unusual part is something about the grammar, and I'm certainly not a grammar specialist, but something about the grammar. But those are so common to me, I can't believe they're not common everywhere. All those usages are something that I would say, that's how I would say it. If I was going to say that sentence, I would use nearly like that. This next one is interesting too. It's another one of those that's just a grammar usage that seems so normal to me because I've always used it and always heard it, so it's hard for me to believe it's not used everywhere. But it's with the word need, so it's an auxiliary verb followed by a past participle of form of a verb. 1967 Hall Collection, Townsend, Tennessee. He'd bring that old jack that needed shoed, and he was hard to shoe. 1978 Montgomery, White Pine Collection. They started before sunup and worked after sundown if you had a job that needed finished. 1980 Ogle, Joy and Sorrow. When the aide spoke of something needed done, Mr. Shirley turned on her and told her he would take care of the business and not to worry herself about it. 1986 Husky, Sugarlands. There were men and women living in the sugar lands with talent and the ability to do most anything needed done in the community. 1994, Montgomery collection, the job needs finished. That thing needs washed, and that was Shields. And the next part of it sort of is the same vein of, I guess, oddity, or that they noted it was different, is in the phrase needn't to plus verb. So 1913, Capehart, Our Southern Highlanders, I'm a hillbilly all right, and they needn't to glory their old flat lands to me. 1931, Goodrich, Mountain Homespun, there's one thing I needn't to have worried about now. When he's in jail, he can't be killed or crippled in a fight with them revenuers. So that one is just so common. It's hard for me. I mean, it's just such a part of the fabric of how I would say something. It's hard for me to believe it's not common everywhere, but please let me know what you think about that. This next one is one that I really like, neighbor people, just because it sounds like so comforting and part of the community, you know. Noun, neighbors. 1943, Hannum, mountain people. Shapes of phrases repeat themselves and the same sounds re-echo, given oddly enough vividness rather than monotony, as in their use of double words. Down log, sulfur match, man person, flower thing, mother woman, storm of rain, tooth dentist, neighbor people, ocean sea, ham meat, cooking pan, belly empty, biscuit bread, rifle gun, riding critter, cow brute, preacher man, granny woman, weans, and chanty song. So that's just kind of, it's just noting that in Appalachian language that was kind of very common, more so definitely in days gone by, but to use those double words. I think that goes back to, and that's, they're touching on that, the quote is, that it is our, in Appalachian language, we want to be very specific, and so that it's really a neat way of communicating, but everything, when we use these unique terms, and it's kind of like putting EST on words that doesn't belong there, like the fightingist and different things like that, it's because we really want to emphasize, we want you to know what we mean. So when he's talking about the man, that was one of the examples, we want you to know it wasn't just a man, it was a preacher man, or it was a granny woman, or a ham biscuit. It wasn't just any biscuit, it was a ham biscuit, or it was deer meat, or hog meat. So I love that, neighbor people. I've not heard no one say that, but I really like that. But I love the outlook of this Hannum, 1943, how he's, that, to me, that really encapsulates shapes of phrases repeat themselves and the same sounds re-echo, given oddly enough vividness rather than monotony. So I love that. I love that about Appalachian language, and I think that comes through in a lot of the little quirks that you find in Appalachian language, that desire to be really put emphasis and to be vivid and clear about what you're talking about. The next one is, again, just a pronunciation, but it's nest, noun, variant plural form of 2 syllables, Nestus. I don't hear anyone say that. I have heard people say descus, that's another one. Move those descus over there, like in school or something, but Nestus. Let's see, 1926, Cox Cullowhee word list, the hens make their nestus in the deep weeds. 1937, Cott County, turkle doves build their nestus between 2 joints of a limb. 1940, Oakley, Roman Reston, this cliff is where they build their nestus. So nestus. Like I said, I've heard descus. There's a few others like that, and of course I can't think of them right now. Testas, like if you have any testas in school today, yeah, I had 3 testas. That's another one that you'll hear, but not very often. Those are almost, I would say, almost gone. So the next one is never, and I'm going to read the second entry for you. It's an adverb, and the second one is didn't, to negate a single event in the past, often emphatically. See also grammar, it's telling us, we can go back and look. 1924, in 1952, Math's Tall Tales, no, mister, I never fotched nary apple this trip, he replied to my inquiry. 1937, Connor, we never heard of fertilizers until I was 13 or 14 years old. 1939 Hall Collection, Proctor, North Carolina. We never seen it then. It run back down here, there again, and was coming back in, and they catched it before it got back to us. That was Dan Cable. 1956 Hall Collection, Mount Sterling, North Carolina. If the groundhogs saw their shadow, they'd go back in and never came out for a while, and that was Mitchell Sutton. 1957 Paris, My Mountains. Of course, I knew my pa would lay into me with a hickory if I smoked. I never started smoking until I was about 15. 1970 Foster, Walker Valley. I never heard the last whistle. Etta Webb. 1970 Great Smoky Mountain National Park. I never come down here for that. 1972 See, we never married till we was 35 years old. 1973, she never died then. She turned over against the wall and she says, Lord, let me live. 1975, I never saw none till after I was grown. 1975, Lunsford, it used to be. While there, I met the members of the family, but Redmond never moved from there for years. 1976, Great Smoky Mountain National Park. You never seen a hillside plowed, did you? And then the second part of this one is never, it's kind of the second part of the same entry, is never did. Didn't ever, haven't ever. 1886, Smith Southern Dialect, never did it, didn't do it. Hall Collection, 1937, Upper Crosby Creek, Tennessee. We never did hear from them. That was Venie Ramsey. 1939 Hall Collection. I never did live in a place where there was no meetings nor singings. 1976. I never did go hardly any. 1991 Haynes, Haywood Home. I never did see Grandma do any work of any kind. Oh, that was an unusual grandma, wasn't it? I never did see Grandma do work of any kind. 1996. I never did know what caused it. And then there's one more to that one, is for negative emphasis, as in never, hardly, not never. 1939 Hall Collection. Did you not never see one? Cataloochee, North Carolina. Never in all the days of your life have you heard a commotion like that. Jim Sutton. 1953 Hall Collection, Hartford, Tennessee. His mother relied on him. He would get out and get wood for her. The snow never hardly got off the ground, and that was J. Lacey Barnes. Did he not get none of it? So again, this part of the dictionary has been really interesting for me as I read through these today, because so many of them, they seem so common to me that I can't believe they're not common everywhere, these usages. All that I just read, that's exactly how, if I was talking about those subjects, that's how I would use never in that manner. It's just so beyond common to me. And maybe it's common everywhere else, but maybe it's not, since the dictionary noted it. Now, these that we went over today are mostly grammar usages. A lot of times, if I share a word, somebody will say, well, that's not unusual. Everybody says that word. They just don't say it like that. Well, that's the unusual part, like the narrow and nary. That's what makes it unique. That's what makes it unique to Appalachian language. So I'm guessing Michael Montgomery was such a wonderful linguist and just a scholar when it come to Appalachian language. I'm guessing that he really noted that these grammatical usage were different, and that's why he put them in this book, which is just fascinating to me. So please leave me a comment and let me know if you use never like these. The other one was none and nary, both the Narys. If these are, if they're like, for you, if you feel the same way I do, that they're just beyond common, or if you're like, no, I would never use those double negatives and those wrong grammar situations that he described, that I don't even know what those words mean, those grammatical terms. But please leave a comment and let me know which ones you were familiar with, or which ones you use, which ones you've never heard of. And as always, I hope you just keep dropping back by to help me celebrate Appalachia, which is a whole lot of the wonderful, colorful language, which just puts, like I said, it's just it's just a rich language. When you take that extra moment, I think I can speak for all the people who come before me who taught me how to talk, but when you put that extra word or those extra syllables, I think it really enforces what you're saying. I know a lot of people don't agree with me on that, and that's okay too. But please drop back by often and help me celebrate Appalachia.